Microsoft has just wrapped up their special episode of Xbox Inside where they were highlighting brand new gameplay for Xbox Series X. Kind of. I have very mixed thoughts about this, some of which are very positive, some of which are not so positive. I think overall I did like it, but I would definitely be lying if I said it lived up to a lot of the expectations and hopes that I was having for it. And to be honest, it's actually still going on. They finished up all the actual gameplay reveals, and now they're doing a lot of developer interviews, which I plan to watch afterwards, but I really wanted to focus on just what we saw in terms of gameplay, because that was the real main thing that was pulling people in to begin with. So, first off, something that I did not anticipate was how many games they actually revealed and talked about. When they first mentioned they were going to be doing a gameplay reveal for Series X, I really thought we were going to get 4, maybe 5 titles that were going to be focused on and really take over the main body of the show. But instead, we actually ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games, unless I miscounted. But anyways, point is, roughly 13 titles were shown off, which is a lot more than I anticipated. Now, the thing is, not all of these games are what I would necessarily call heavy hitters. They're not all AAA titles, they're not all big games that are going to necessarily move consoles, but it was a really nice variety. There was a little bit of everything. We had some racing, we had some RPGs, we had sports. There was just a little bit of every kind of game, I think, to help appeal to different demographics. And that's, I think, what part of the goal of this Xbox Inside was not necessarily to build a hype over the raw power of the system, which is what I think a lot of people were expecting and hoping for today, but instead to showcase the variety of gameplay titles we can expect during its launch window, because that's something that's still a very big unknown, at least until today. We kind of knew about Halo Infinite, and that was about it. Now, on that note, every game they talked about was a third-party title. It was Xbox partners. It's not clear how many of these games are going to be actually Xbox Series X exclusive. Some of them might find their way to PlayStation. A lot of them are probably going to be on PC as well. And even in cases where they are multi-platform, they might be timed. They did, at the very start of the presentation, mention the fact that Xbox Game Studio games will be getting a reveal in July. Specifically, they talked about 343 Studios for Halo Infinite, which I know is the big game a lot of people are looking forward to, but also name-dropped they'll be showing off games from Double Fine, Obsidian, and Ninja Theory, which are all great studios. I'm really curious how many of those are going to be brand new titles, because I know Obsidian, for instance, is working on the game where you're the shrunken kids fighting ants and that kind of stuff. I don't know if we're going to see more gameplay of that running on Series X, or if they're going to announce a new game, which I'm very tentatively excited for, because I love a lot of Obsidian titles, especially their RPGs. I'm a huge fan of Fallout New Vegas, Outer Worlds just came out recently, Pillars of Eternity. There's a lot of great games they've made, so if they have a new game announcement in July, I am very much on board for that. Alright, I got a little off track because of studios I'm excited about, but let's talk about gameplay reveals. So like I said, there was a total of 13 games talked about. I'm gonna do a brief little recap of each of them, but I want to talk about more about the overall direction that this Xbox Inside took. So, really quick, the games that we saw were Bright Memory Infinite, which was this insane looking game from Playism that was kind of a mixture of FPS, but also there was melee combat, there was a little bit of Bulletstorm mechanics going on. I don't know, it just looked nuts. It was definitely the game they chose to open with because it had the most insane things happening all at one time on the screen. Heavy winds, rains running through the sky, crazy combos happening from the characters. The whole point was to really showcase, hey, here's what the Series X looks like at full power. And the reason for that is because a lot of the games after that weren't quite the Series X at full power. After that, we got Dirt 5, which heavily showcased an AMD car. We got Scorn, which we didn't actually see any gameplay for, which is a light recurring theme I'm going to talk about real quick, but it was a very cinematic trailer that was very much, what? I don't actually still know what this game is or is about. I'm very curious about it, but yeah, that was my main reaction after seeing the trailer. What? Deep Silver is working on a new game called Chorus, which was a kind of insane artsy space flying game, which was honestly actually one of the big highlights for me. That game really stood out. I want to learn more about that game. We got a very brief glimpse at Madden 21, which I'm gonna be honest, I phased out a little bit. I'm sorry, it's just not a thing I fully connect with, but still, exciting news for everyone who was looking forward to the inevitable next Madden game that we knew was going to happen. We got a more thorough trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which was revealed previously about, I think, now a year ago, but we haven't really seen any real trailers or more glimpses of gameplay until now, so that was nice to see. One of the most artistically styled games that, again, we don't have a ton of info of what the actual game's gonna be like, but I'm very curious about it, is called Call of the Sea. And while it wasn't the most graphically impressive game, I am also very curious about the game they showed after that called The Ascent, which is just my kind of genre of game. I love co-op, I love beat-em-ups, even if it's, more kind of isometric top-down blowing stuff up with guns, which this appears to be, so that is something I'm looking forward to trying out as well. One of the kind of more surprising titles for me to see was something called The Medium, which is a new psychological horror game. The big selling point of that one wasn't necessarily the trailer they showed for it, which was interesting, but rather the fact that they also advertised the fact that they're using the same musical composer as Silent Hill, which is a great thing, because one of the big selling points of Silent Hill was, well, honestly, everything about the game, but the music was a very important part of that. So having that kind of experience on a new psychological horror game definitely gets my attention. We also got a brand new game announcement from Bandai Namco called Scarlet Nexus, which was a very anime-looking, fast-paced action game, which is all stuff that is, my genre, so gonna check that out as well. One of the slightly weirder games was an FPS featuring dinosaurs called Second Extinction, and a spin-off Yakuza game called Like a Dragon, which, I'm gonna be honest, I actually haven't played the Yakuza games. I need to do that. That's on my to-do list, and what better time than quarantine? So I'm gonna go ahead and start playing those soon, and then I'll have a better idea of what exactly was going on in that trailer, because it looked very, very intense. And of course, the big game at the end, the one that was advertised in advance and a lot of people were expecting to see some very in-depth good gameplay of, was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and we didn't really get that. This is kind of the big recurring problem that was happening a lot in this event, is that they even opened talking about, hey, just everything you see here is gameplay that is rendered in-engine, and we didn't actually see a lot of gameplay. Not raw gameplay, at least. A lot of them were very much kind of hype reel-style trailers that cut everything up very closely, and oftentimes it was hard to tell what was actual gameplay versus what may have been cutscenes or other stuff in-game. And this is always a tug-of-war that happens with any kind of major event reveal like this, where you have to walk that battle of, looking at actual gameplay slowly over time without commentary can be kind of boring. So obviously a hype trailer is better at getting people's interest, but when you talk about showcasing the power of a new system like the Series X, people kind of want to see what they can expect in real slowed down gameplay, and hype trailers don't always get that concept across. And so overall, I have these really mixed thoughts about what I just watched, because on the one hand, I really think it was a great idea to show a large variety of games, even if they weren't all necessarily big AAA heavy hitter type stuff, which honestly for me personally, they don't have to be. I'm a lot more excited for smaller studio stuff, to be honest, so a lot of that looked great to me, but I don't know if that necessarily accomplished the goal of what this conference needed to do and what a lot of people were expecting to get out of it. This is a similar but not as bad of problem as what happened with PlayStation's conference, where, they talked about having a big PS5 reveal and then it ended up being a lot of really in-depth tech jargon, which was awesome for the people that are into that stuff, but didn't necessarily do the best job of getting the regular consumer hyped and excited for the system, because at the end of the day, they didn't see the system, they didn't see a price point, they didn't really get anything other than, cool, look at all this hardware in it. And in the case of this one, we did get kind of what was talked about. Really, no part of it was misdirecting. It was just, I think people built up in their heads this concept that this was going to be the kind of big reveal of how amazingly cool and powerful the Series X is, and really only 2 or 3 of the games they talked about and showcased that. A lot of the games that were shown off had graphics that were very comparable to what you could see on Xbox One, especially when it came to things like character animations, which people have a tendency to focus on. For a lot of these titles that may have looked a little weaker up front, if you paid attention to the environments and the lighting and a lot of that kind of stuff, there actually was a lot of impressive things going on that you couldn't necessarily do on an Xbox One. But it doesn't look that way to the majority of people out there. They're looking for the kind of insane looks that big AAA titles tend to come with them. And so I almost wonder if this would have been a really good second presentation, and if the upcoming one in July would have been a better way to have a hard start on, hey, look how great these big name titles look. Obviously, there could be some big logistic reasons why things played out this way. It's possible that a lot of the gameplay they want to reveal in July just isn't ready yet, and so it has to wait a couple months, and they didn't want people waiting that long for any kind of game news reveal. And while there are definitely mixed feelings about what was shown, this presentation still adds to the overall pile of things we know about Series X that we don't know about PS5. PS5, we have one very long, dry conference focused on the internal hardware and a showcase of the controller. Xbox Series X, we know what the system looks like, we've gotten some talks in terms of what it can do for gaming, we've seen the controller, we've now seen numerous games revealed for it. There's just a lot more that Xbox has been talking about for their next system that PlayStation has been very slow and very quiet about. And so, while this conference definitely wasn't what I think everyone was hoping for it to be, and I think there was definitely better ways of handling it, I think in the end this is still a net positive move forward for Xbox, because we're seeing more stuff about the system, and in general there's just more talk and discussion about Series X than there is for PS5, because the PS5 is still one gigantic question mark. So those are my thoughts. I thought a lot of the games looked interesting, even if they weren't necessarily the top choice for showcasing the power of the Series X. I almost wish they kind of just focused more on the fact that these were game reveals and not necessarily using the term gameplay Series X, because again, that gives people this concept of like, oh, we're gonna see this high power system. But in the end, I think they were still worth showing. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Were you disappointed by the conference? Were you hoping to see something different, something more? I know especially one complaint that's gonna come up a lot is that Assassin's Creed Valhalla really didn't get anything new shown. I mean, there was technically new things shown, but it wasn't new, it wasn't real gameplay. Just let me know what you guys thought down below.